Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Modern Mom, where we talk about being a mom in the 21st century. My name is Remy Kay. I am a comedian and a certified life and relationship coach. And actually, I just got my certification in parenting coaching too. Woot woot. And, and this is my friend Julia Saffron. And actually, Julia is one of the first people who I talked about having a podcast with. We're out here in the pool today, so we're enjoying the beautiful sunshine, and we're gonna kind of chill and sit back and talk about stuff. So, Julia, you brought this book.
Yes,
Tell me
I
more about
brought the
it.
book, Meeting the Shadow, The Hidden Power of the Dark Side of Human Nature. It's all authors that I respect and admire.
First.
Carl Jung, Joseph Campbell. One of the ones I was reading earlier, Eichmann, William Carl Eichmann. And a lot of them are just thinkers of the 20th century. Joseph Campbell always writes about archetypes. So Carl Jung,
Psychology.
psychological philosophy, basically.
I feel like
Oh,
Freud is very black and white. Carl Jung is like a little bit black and white, but just not nearly as much.
it's called The Red Book, and it's basically him going through psychosis on his own and what he experienced. He wasn't mentally ill, but he went through psychosis to get to the bottom of the human psyche. I've read some of it, and it's just like a nightmare. You know, in a dream, my dreams have a lot of mirth in them.
Realistic and not realistic. And it does feel like I'm actually experiencing something. Back in the olden days, people used to dream in black and white because television was in black and white.
I've had black and white dreams.
Have you?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever had a black and white dream. Did you
Yeah.
watch black and white TV growing up at all?
I'm not that old.
I know, but hey, listen, I watched the Big Brady Bunch, for example.
I mean,
And
no,
Brady Bunch was
actually,
before my
I
time.
was like 2 when I had this dream. It was a nightmare. It was my first nightmare, so I remember all of it. I lived
Okay.
in San Francisco, so it was like a lot of sand dunes and just beachy stuff. I grew up on Baker Beach in San Francisco.
Dahlia, my oldest, was born when I lived in San Francisco. And then I very quickly realized there's no way I can have a kid and be living in San Francisco.
Yeah, my mom was insane for that, but also I admire her a lot for her tenacity at trying.
Hmm.
You know, she lived in San Francisco for 25 years.
Wow.
And then she had me
Mhm.
and was like, "Yeah, I guess you can hang
We're
out."
gonna keep going.
Yeah, we're gonna
living
keep
in San
doing this.
I mean, people who live in San Francisco, like for a long time, it's kind of like almost New York, but not New York, where they don't want to leave.
Yeah.
But I feel like in New York, like New York City, you have to leave. Like there's no choice. You can't be taking a baby with you on the metro.
Really? I've never been.
You've never been to New York?
Uh-uh.
I've
I've
been.
never been
I
to the
was.
East Coast at all.
Oh, really?
Just Colorado is the farthest east I've
What
been.
part of Colorado?
Boulder,
Oh,
of
yeah, I've
course.
been there. I heard housing prices are like 700,000 there average now.
Dude,
Isn't that
I
crazy?
believe it. If California is not California enough for you,
Yeah,
you have to move to Boulder.
Boulder. It is very California over there. It's nice. I liked it. I liked going to
I
Colorado.
loved Boulder. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
I loved
My
it.
uncle lives in Aspen and he built a tree house
Yeah.
on some millionaire's property and is basically squatting
Uh-huh.
in a property in Aspen.
That's interesting.
And he's built all this like biochar solar fuel, like
Interesting.
it's a 4-story house in
Yeah.
a tree.
That's amazing.
I know, I'm like,
Does
Uncle
he
Matt,
still
can I come
exist?
visit? Yeah,
He's still there?
doing it.
That's
Yeah.
hilarious. Oh my
He's
gosh.
actually working on an invention to heat the house with the biochar that I don't know. I don't
Biotar, what is that?
he understands the like really physical science and
Yeah.
I understand the like more metaphysical science.
Right. Combining quantum mechanics and quantum physics into like the metaphysical realm.
In reading this book, I'd like to pull the thread of social infrastructure and the physical infrastructure and like see how they're actually combined. That's where the metaphysical quantum realm comes in because it's in spirituality, people are prone to saying, I'm a spiritual being having a physical experience.
Right.
But I don't buy that at all.
Really?
I think I'm a physical being having a spiritual experience.
Really?
I do. That like consciousness itself cannot be extrapolated, it can't be extricated from the human body until the human body is gone.
Mm-hmm.
So really, I'm still a physical being. I'm so woke in my spiritual essence that I'm just having a physical experience.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds a little bourgeoisie to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it sounds pompous to me
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like there's a reason that I was put into that I put myself
Mm-hmm.
on a spiritual plane we are in we're controlling our own
Mhm.
destiny. So if I'm in a spiritual plane before birth
Mhm.
or something like it, and then I decide to become a physical being to learn something,
Mhm.
there's a meaning to it.
Right.
Why would I go then into that physical world and become spiritual?
Mhm.
I
Walk this
I
path toward becoming spiritual.
what
Well, I
if I
think
was already spiritual
Mhm.
and then I came here to learn about physical,
Mhm.
why would I then like pull myself away and disassociate from the
Physical.
physical because that's where the lesson is.
Sure.
You know?
No, and I
It's like
don't
we
think
know how
you're
to be spiritual.
yeah, I don't think we're meant to completely disengage from the physical. I mean, we're meant to be physical beings, and I think we're meant to navigate that. Being able to experience this physicality without getting into the pettiness and the smallness. We are kind of specks of existence. Time is a really good example. Being young and going to school each year felt almost the same in a way because in relation to my life, each year was a significant ratio of my life. So say when I was in 5th grade, right? I'm like 10 years 11 years old. Each year it's been 1/11th of my life. Like there isn't much of a
Oh
difference.
yeah, the
Yeah,
time frame is weird
right.
because I know exactly what you're
Yes.
talking about. The
Where
proportion
yes,
of a day is
exactly.
so much bigger
Right.
when you're 11.
And think about it. So
Yeah.
when you're 11, 1/11th is a year. When you're 10, 1/10 is a year. Like there's a huge difference between like 1/10 and
And
1/11th.
yes, there
There's a
is.
huge difference between 1/10 and 1/42nd. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Time,
Time,
time
yeah.
being relative, right? And also, I also don't buy the idea that time is linear. And we've talked about this.
And now they're putting everything on a linear thing. It's like there's a spectrum of everything. I'm like,
Right.
well, you curl the ends of the spectrum, you make a circle. So
Correct.
let's just call it a circle and be done
Right.
with it.
Finding my soulmate is like the point. That's the point, right?
Was there a thing
Oh,
of
yeah, I
that,
feel
like,
like that.
was that a
Disney I feel like
popular oh, yeah,
yeah,
our
like
generation?
yeah,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Disney made it a thing where it was like, "Oh, you find your person and they rescue you, and either they rescue you from your monotony or they rescue you from your demons, and you live happily ever after." I believe that I'm my soulmate. I feel like it's been a bit of a game changer because, like, I get to kinda get to know myself and get to know, like, what kind of mom do I wanna be? What kind of person do I wanna be? What kind of, business do I wanna have, right? How do I wanna, serve humanity? Things like that.
I used to trip on being myself all the like, know thyself was like a mantra for me,
Yeah.
and it got to a point where I realized that in telling myself to know thyself, I was implying that I didn't,
Mhm.
and then I was like, "But everywhere you go, there you are,"
Right.
type of stuff.
But it's
Because
not just you in present day, it's you from yesterday and day before yesterday and last year and the year before. It's like all of those,
all
people from all of those fragments of moments are living inside of us. So I know for me, and I've said this before on this podcast, but for me, I like to check in with different stages of myself. And I'm sure whether I remember it or not, some pivotal thing happened at each of those stages. And I like to check in with each of them for different reasons. 4-year-old self, to
uh-huh,
kinda check in like, "Hey, we're safe, like, we're
and
good," right?
right?
And then for my 15-year-old self, like, that's the self I refer to for my spiritual practice. At 15, ironically, it seemed like the time in my life where I kinda knew nothing about what was going on,
Hey, that's the secret, right?
and
Is know
yet
nothing.
and yet, that's the time where I was most spiritually connected without realizing it.
Yeah.
Before I was kinda told externally, like, this is what, the belief is, and this is what
Oh, yeah, that
yeah.
part. Yeah. I was lucky. I was raised by a Wiccan, pagan, atheist, which doesn't make any sense, but she was so anti established religion that even our paganism wasn't established. We had
Coven.
no covens, no idol, no shrines,
I
nothing.
kinda like that in a way because, I grew up in Islam, and in Islam, it says, "Don't worship a thing pretending it's
Right.
the creator."
I love the way that Islam has created their art, like their mosaics that represent what they
The
cannot
creation.
do,
Right,
what they cannot worship.
right.
I don't worship this, I create
Right.
instead,
Mhm.
in not in effigy of, but in love for
Yeah.
this deity that exists.
Right. Like with many religions, there's like patriarchy that gets involved and a
Yeah.
lot of things that get made up and a lot of judgment gets passed. And even I've heard it, ooh, we're getting deep now. I've heard it with Christianity where people are like, Christ would have accepted everybody, right?
Right.
And then
Everybody
for everybody.
for
A
everything.
leper, it didn't matter. Like if that person was, kind of expelled from regular society, like
Yeah, it's so true, right?
yeah,
If you think about the Christ consciousness, um, he, allegedly he forgave the thief next to him. They never talked about murder or anything. Like he never. I don't remember if he ever forgave a murderer. But
mhm.
in Christianity, who do accept everyone, who do understand that all sins were forgiven, therefore there is no sin left.
Forgiveness. We talk about forgiveness as if,
Right?
transgression must be made and the forgiveness must be attained, right?
Yeah.
But there is, for example, this word in Arabic that people talk about in Islam a lot,
Oh, I
rahma.
remember this.
Yeah, so people talk about rahma. They're like, oh, rahma. Rahma is forgiveness, but the art of forgiveness means that there had to be some transgression made.
Yeah.
But like, if we believe in a creator that's bigger than time, bigger than whatever, and even time is bigger than what we believe it to be, right? Then it's like, why is forgiveness necessary? And that's when it dawned on me that amnesty was a much more accurate translation based on everything I had heard, out of this
Well,
word.
and the way you described it was the when you had that experience
Yeah,
of being worried about your
my
daughter
daughter.
and stuff
Yeah,
like that,
yeah.
and you
And forgiveness
understood.
wasn't enough. I was
It was,
like,
yeah,
I want her to be granted amnesty. And that's when it dawned on me that, like, oh my God, like, that is such a much more accurate definition of this word based
yeah.
on everything I'd heard, every context I'd heard of it, water being splashed toward me. It's just full of water, guys. But yeah, so, based on everything I'd heard about this word, it was like, oh my gosh, that just makes so much sense to me. And that's when it dawned on me. Then I realized it's really our responsibility. I can't be told what anything is.
Yeah.
And I kinda like how your mom did that. Your mom, like, wasn't gonna let anybody tell her to have a coven or, do this or do that or have a deity, a idol to worship or whatever. She was like, "Look, I am really doing this in the way that," in a way, like you described as atheist, but, like, she probably left the space for the most ultimate direct connection, to the source, in my opinion.
I think she did. I feel very much blessed that I never was dogmatically instructed on how to worship or be divine. The local pagan store
Mhm.
and getting my first spell book and making little spells in the moonlight. Maybe I wasn't even raised Wiccan, that's just what I chose
Right.
as a child
Yeah.
to get
You
involved
were
with.
raised with the openness to kind of pick and choose. I
Yeah.
feel like, I just have to be so careful because I remember before I started a lot of some of the journey that I've started in the last like half decade or so, I was really focused on, asking for what I wanted, praying for specific things. And now,
Ooh,
yeah, and
scary.
yeah, it is scary because who am I? Like I'm my little human mind, and I don't know if you
Careful what you wish for type
right.
stuff.
And I don't know if you've heard of this, but we're only like 1/1700th of our soul. I don't know. Have you heard this theory at all? 12 times 12 times 12. This is like something that I heard.
144 times 12?
Yeah. What is that?
1788.
28.
Oh,
Supposedly it's like the soul splits that many times.
1728.
Yeah, and
Okay.
we're living parallel lives. The multiverse apparently is like 1728 versions of
Why
ourselves.
is it 12? What's so sacred about 12?
I mean, 12 is kind of sacred in a lot of beliefs, right?
It
Something
is,
about
I
it's
mean,
divisible by 3, number 1,
and
right?
4,
And 4, but 3 is like the magic number of the universe. And 6,
allegedly.
3,
I
6.
think 9 is the magic number of the universe.
I
Add 1728 together.
is it 9?
No. Watch. Watch this math. This is my crazy mind
8,
going off.
16, 18. Oh.
18. 1 plus 8 is 9.
Yes, you're correct.
And it's always every number that you can
Comes back
add up
down
to
to
comes
9.
back
It's
down to
true.
9
It's
in
true.
numerals. Like,
Yeah.
if it's like a numerology thing,
Yeah.
but to me, 9 is the most sacred,
I think
divine,
it's
like
3, 6, and 9. I think the 3
all-encompassing
because even
number.
3 is, 9 is divisible by 3. There are people, I mean, who are like adamantly against astrology and adamantly
Oh, it's
against angel
witchcraft.
numbers.
It's
Yeah.
always been witchcraft.
And, the thing is, it's like, I don't know. I just feel like gravity is holding me down on the planet. I'm gonna have a hard time believing that somehow the planet's position isn't having an effect on my mood.
Then why wouldn't the light from thousands of
Right.
years away, miles away, affect us a certain way
Yeah.
also?
Yeah.
It's
No, I
all
agree.
affecting us all
I
the
agree.
time.
I agree.
It's
And we may
I
not
mean,
have figured it out. Like we may not totally know exactly how,
how? Not how,
but
but we know it does,
I heard
or it's some way.
some of the most successful people utilize real astrology, not this new age astrology we see on social media.
And like looking up your
Planetary
moon
chart.
and your
Yeah.
chart, and
Hmm.
yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah.
And I'm a Cancer,
Yeah.
Mercury, Cancer, Sun, Cancer, Moon,
Wait, are
Gemini
you?
rising. I'm a
Oh,
triple Cancer.
all right. We went down a rabbit hole, but
1728.
1728.
The shadow work, the dark work that people have to do in order to grow towards the light. It's like the representation, the tree of life represents the roots in the darkness growing deeper so that the tree can grow taller towards the light
Yeah, that makes sense.
spiritually, right?
It has to be darker before the dawn.
There has to be, but also, I mean, don't get me started on like the clearly the world is a big giant metaphor for us because we need to chrysalis every night. We chrysalis in our dreams. Yeah.
So, okay, let's back up a little bit and talk about a little bit how we met because I think it's an interesting story. So, Julie and I met in a format where it was like similar to speed dating, but it was like speed friendship basically.
Yeah.
And I remember I sat down in front of her and she was like, "Hey." And I was like, immediately, I was like, "This is awkward. I feel
That's what
awkward."
you said
Or I said,
out
I'm
loud.
out loud. I'm awkward. Said,
No, you said something. This is what I think you said. This is awkward because I was like, what makes it awkward?
yeah. And then we had this immediate deep connection, like just from the get go.
Yeah.
And like exchange numbers. And so we hung out during this like conference at the beginning of this year. And it turned out, we'd have these kind of conversations about the metaphysical and our thoughts behind it. And, we kind of connected over that. So I just kind of wanted to back up and like have that context there too.
This is why we talk about this
This is
stuff
why we
on
talk
my
about this.
podcast
Yeah.
because that's all
That's like kind
Julia
of,
talks about 24/7 anyway, so
I mean, no, you definitely have knowledge in different things. I mean, even when I whipped out the audio for my podcast, she commented on the
the
connectors.
XLR.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the male XLR. There's a female XLR. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
That's
So
because I was in the AV industry for a while.
talk about that for a minute.
Well, there's a glass ceiling. I make pennies on the dollar in the AV industry.
I should probably change the intro to this podcast because it's like really about talking about random stuff, which is,
The intro, oh, this particular
yeah,
one?
yeah. Well, no, everyone. That's how I start off every podcast
Oh,
because I feel like people box, especially mothers, in, and I know I don't fit that box at all.
no. I'm a mother.
Yeah,
I have super maternal instincts.
yeah.
My kid's 16. Mothers are put in a box of like, you have to be constantly nurturing.
I think there's this sacrificial expectation of
Oh,
like
yeah.
mothers, should be completely focused on the children, and sacrifice their self-care and their self-love
I had not thought of that
and
before.
fitness. Yeah. And there is definitely this culture of that, in my opinion, that expectation. And like working mothers should be working as if they're not mothers and mothers as if they're not working.
Yeah, the double standard is real. The sacrificial mother is probably, I mean,
Filling my own cup to the absolute brim, and then the excess is what is being fed to whoever it is I'm taking care of and nurturing, in this case my children.
well, your children benefit from your cup being full. The sacrifice of self truly
Mhm.
is to take care of oneself, doing that for another person's benefit.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
It's like,
Yeah, no, totally.
I'm going to care,
And honestly,
a
I
lot of
mean,
us learn to care for ourselves by being mothers.
right.
Like, that's how I learned to care. I was 19 when I had my daughter. I
Mhm.
had to learn how to nurture a person, and I
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, I can do this for myself too,"
Oh,
you
totally.
know,
It's true.
an
You learn
infant.
high quality, how to take care of yourself in a high quality way by giving that top quality care to an infant. And it's funny because I remember hearing, someone say, well, I watch how a woman before she's a mother take care of herself because, if she can't take care of herself, how's she going to take care of my kids? And that's
That's
just
so not
not
true.
true. I think a lot of times women do learn how to take care of themselves by taking care of another person.
My boyfriend is taking care of his, mother
Mhm.
who's has alcohol-induced dementia
Mhm.
right now,
Mhm.
and I love seeing the way that he looks at her. So much compassion and but also so much just genuine love. There's something about it that reminds me of my own mortality, and I
Mhm.
do appreciate that.
Mhm.
And then it's hard to watch the hard stuff, right? And try to, I have the luxury of taking a back seat when it gets hard
Mhm.
because she's not gonna know me well enough to know that I have her best interests at heart.
Mhm. You have to let him kind
I
of
have
take
to
the
let
reins.
him do the things
Mhm.
when she's grumpy.
Mhm.
Basically, she's just grumpy.
Mhm.
But I'm telling you, I almost watched her get arrested at an elderly care facility because she got out and they called the police on her.
Mhm.
And luckily, they called us too.
Mhm.
And we pulled up right when the police were talking to her. And they're like, oh, you can take her back to okay. And they're like, do you still want to press charges to the nurses? And they're like, no, it's okay.
But in certain cultures, there's an expectation that the children will take care of the parents.
Like ours.
Is that the
Well,
case?
like, yeah, American culture is very like,
Well, American culture is very like there's a nursing home or there's an elderly facility or living assistance, etc.
yeah, but they're expected to financially take care of the
Financially,
elder.
yes, but I'm more I think maybe referring to like this because the expectation in Eastern culture is when the parents grow old, they live with you and you're expected to take care of them not only
Rub their
financially,
feet.
whatever it is they need, right? I love the outdoors. I love camping. I love hiking. I love backpacking. I love climbing, indoor and outdoor climbing. And I got to this place where I was just like, I'm so done hiding from the sun.
Hmm.
My skin was made to be in the sun.
Yeah.
And, sometimes I do look at my skin because my skin can get very, very dark,
Hmm.
especially right now in the summertime. I'm definitely a lot darker than I am in the wintertime. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, this is how my skin gets in the summer.
I hitchhiked everywhere growing
Did
up.
you?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Since I was like 14.
Yeah.
But Tony Jones is an affirmationist. She has this song called Take Up Space,
Mhm.
Sis.
Okay.
And it's basically like all the ways in which you should take up space for
I
yourself.
love that
It's
actually.
so
Yeah.
amazing.
I do have to say that is one strength that I have is asking for help. And
Yeah.
I know how to ask for help in a very specific, concise way
Yeah.
so that it's not just like, help me. And people are like, I don't know what to do.
Oh, I tell people what to
Yeah,
do.
me too.
I'm a
Like,
delegator.
I
I'm
like,
like, take
yeah,
the garbage out,
right.
do this, do that.
So
Like,
I like to make shepherd's pie. Have you ever had my
I
shepherd's
have
pie?
not had your shepherd's
Okay. I
pie.
make a killer shepherd's pie. And my secret is, it's not a secret because I'm going to say it right now, is I like to put different things in the mashed potatoes. So either it's a truffle salt,
I
which
love
is,
truffle stuff.
yeah, it's really delicious, or it's like an onion powder and I mix it with yogurt and
Yeah.
then I put that in the mashed potatoes. So one
Oh,
of those
okay.
flavors, it just like ends up tasting really good. And so that's
Yeah,
my secret.
shepherd's pie is unusually bland most of the time.
Most not mine.
Yeah.
Not mine. It's
Truffle
definitely,
salt
yeah.
is definitely not bland,
Yeah.
and
No,
it's
I
good flavor.
yeah.
I've eaten fish eyes and brains and
How was
stuff.
it?
It was alright. They
Yeah.
were a little chewy.
I thank you for coming on by the way
Oh,
because
yeah.
the person who I'd scheduled, she had canceled. We're at the pool and my kids are swimming behind us, and we're
Around us.
recording around us and we're recording a podcast,
I love that.
right?
I'm so happy. I'm
I
so happy I made it down here and
know,
got to
me
hold
too.
that bird.
So tell us about the bird you found.
Okay, so there was this baby bird. It landed first. I was walking around looking for water, and then the bird landed on my backpack. It was like flying against a wall, and then it came and landed on my backpack, and I was like, "Whoa, where did it go?" It like flew into
Oh,
me.
get closer to the mic.
Oh, it flew into me, and I looked down, and it was just looking up at me from my backpack. And then I tried to pick it up, and then it flew into the BART station, like past the slots
Mhm.
where you can let yourself in and out.
Mhm.
And then so I went to I actually let myself into the BART and let myself back out, and I caught the bird with my hands and like was talking really sweet to it and nice to it and letting it know, and I held it for a while, put it down by the ground, and it like hopped out of my hand and just went off into a bush.
Oh, wow.
It was so sweet. It was obviously like a fledgling trying to learn to fly.
Yeah.
So I hope that he climbed to the top of that bush and jumped off.
Yeah. And took off.
Yeah, well, jumped and then flew. Yeah.
The BART is the Bay Area Transit, Rapid Transit.
The BART. Yeah,
The BART.
I call it the BART
Yeah.
because the Bay Area Rapid Transit actually
yeah.
makes sense.
I mean,
Ancient from the
from
1900s.
the 1900s. We're from the 1900s. I understand. So thank you so much for being on the show.
You're so welcome.
And I definitely want you back. All right. Well,
You're
and
welcome.
we'll see you guys next time on Modern Mom.
Bye.
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 Bye.